not expect anybody to be here right now, honestly, because it's such a odd time for me to be streaming. But it's a Sunday, which means there's no construction next door and I can actually stream during the day. Very rare occurrence. That is ah that is a very good time for you. Maybe I should have done some gaming instead. But I'm being lazy and cozy. As I only got up a couple of hours ago myself. And I've pulled a muscle in my neck and it hurts. But yeah, I'm just gonna jump back into some reading because honestly, I've been enjoying reading the book again and it's been really fun to have some nice little cozy times. Cozy times are good times for sure. Right. I believe we left off at chapter 13. Yeah, let's go. Ooh, there we go. Chapter 13. I hope, my dear, said Mr. Bennet to his wife, as they were at breakfast the next morning, that you have ordered a good dinner today, because I have reason to expect an addition to our family party. What do you mean, my dear? I know of nobody that is coming, and I am sure, unless Charlotte Lucas should happen to call in, and I hope my dinners are good enough for her. I do not believe she often sees such at home. The person of whom I speak is a gentleman, and a stranger. Mrs. Bennet's eyes sparkled. A gentleman and a stranger? It is Mr. Bingley, I am sure. Well, I am sure I shall be extremely glad to see Mr. Bingley, but, good Lord, how unlucky! There is not a bit of fish to be got to-day. Lydia, my love, ring the bell. I must speak to Hill this moment. It is not Mr. Bingley, said her husband. It is a person whom I never saw in the whole course of my life. This roused general astonishment, and he had the pleasure of being eagerly questioned by his wife and his 5 daughters at once. After amusing himself some time with their curiosity, he thus explained. About a month ago I received this letter, and about a fortnight ago I answered it, for I thought it a case of some delicacy and requiring early attention. It is from my cousin Mr. Collins, who, when I am dead, may turn you all out of this house as soon as he pleases. Oh, my dear, cried his wife, I cannot bear to hear that mentioned. Pray do not talk of that odious man. I do think it is the hardest thing in the world, that your estate should be entailed away from your own children, and I am sure, if I had been you, I should have tried long ago to do something or the other about it. Jane and Elizabeth tried to explain to her the nature of an entail, that they had often attempted to do it before, but it was subject on which Mrs. Bennet was beyond the reach of reason, and she continued to rail bitterly against the cruelty of settling an estate away from a family of 5 daughters in favour of a man whom nobody cared anything about. It is certainly a more iniquitous affair, said Mr. Bennet, and nothing can clear Mr. Collins from the guilt of inheriting Longbourn. But if you will listen to his letter, you may perhaps be a little softened by his manner of expressing himself. No, that I am sure I shall not. and I think it very impertinent of him to write to you at all, and very hypocritical. I hate such false friends. Why could he not keep on quarrelling with you as his father did before him? Why, indeed, he does seem to have some filial scruples on that head, as you will hear. Hunsford, near Westerham, Kent, 15th October. Dear Sir, the disagreement subsisting between yourself and my late honoured father always gave me uneasiness, and since I have had the misfortune to lose him, I have frequently wished to heal the breach, but for some reason I was kept back by my own doubts, fearing lest it might seem disrespectful to his memory for me to be on good terms with anyone with whom it had always pleased him to be at variance. There, Mrs. Bennet. My mind, however, is now made up on the subject, for having received ordination at Easter, I have been so fortunate to be distinguished by patronage of the Right Honourable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, widow of Sir Louis de Bourgh, whose bounty and beneficence has preferred me to the valuable rectory of this parish. Oh God, where it shall be my earnest endeavour to demean myself with grateful respect towards her ladyship, and be ever ready to perform those rites and ceremonies which are instituted by the Church of England. As a clergyman, moreover, I feel it my duty to promote and establish the blessing of peace in all families within in the reach of my influence, and on these grounds I flatter myself that my present overtures are highly commendable, and that the circumstance of my being next the entail of Longbourn estate will be kindly overlooked on your side, and not lead you to reject the offered olive branch. I cannot be otherwise than concerned at being the means of injuring your amiable daughters, and beg leave to apologize for it, as well as to assure you of my readiness to make them every possible amends but of this hereafter. I propose myself, if you should have no objection to receive me into your house, I propose myself the satisfaction of waiting on you and your family Monday, November 18th by 4 o'clock, and shall probably trespass on your hospitality till Saturday the following evening. Not following evening, till Saturday night following. So, like a whole week. He's just like, hey, bro, can I come over for a week? I know you and my dad hated each other, but like, he's just a silly little dude. No, he kind of sucks. I don't like him very much, but that's fine. Um, which I can do without any inconvenience, as Lady Catherine is far from objecting to my occasional absence on a Sunday, provided that some other clergyman is engaged to do the duty of the day. I remain, dear sir, with respectful compliments to your lady and daughters, your well-wisher and friend, William Collins. At 4 o'clock, therefore, we may expect this peacemaking gentleman, said Mr. Bennet, as he folded up the letter. He seems to be a most conscientious and polite young man. Upon my word, and I doubt not will prove a valuable acquaintance, especially if Lady Catherine should be so indulgent as to let him come to us again. There is some sense in what he says about the girls, however, and if he is disposed to make them any amends, I shall not be the person to discourage him. Though it is difficult, said Jane, to guess in what way he can mean to make us the atonement he thinks our due, the wish is certainly likely to his credit. Elizabeth was chiefly struck by his extraordinary deference for Lady Catherine, and his kind intention of christening, marrying, and burying his parishioners whenever it required. He must be an oddity, I think, said she. I cannot make him out. There is something very pompous in his style, and what can he mean by apologizing for being next in the entail? We cannot suppose he would help it if he could. Could he be a sensible man, sir? No, my dear, I think not. I have great hopes of finding him quite the reverse. There is a mixture of servility and self-importance in his letter, which promises well. I am impatient to see him. In point of composition, said Mary, the letter does not seem defective. The idea of the olive branch perhaps is not wholly new, yet I think it is well expressed. To Catherine and Lydia, neither the letter nor its writer were in any degree interesting. It was next to impossible that their cousin should come in a scarlet coat, and it was now some weeks since they had received pleasure from the society of a man in any other colour. As for their mother, Mr. Collins's letter had done away with much of her ill will, and she was preparing to see him with a degree of composure which astonished her husbands and daughters. Husbands? No, her husband and daughters. Mr. Collins was punctual to his time, and was received with great politeness by the whole family. Mr. Bennet indeed said little, but the ladies were ready enough to talk, and Mr. Collins seemed neither in need of encouragement nor inclined to be silent himself. His air was grave and stately, and his manner was very formal. Wait, I missed a line. Oh my god. I feel like there's a level of I have to slow down when I'm reading out loud. Because when I read in my brain, I read super fast and I have to slow down. And when I slow down, I just like end up skipping whole sentences. I'm not used to being quiet or slow. It's not stuff that comes very naturally at all. Hmm. Um, where was I? Okay. So Mr. Collins showed up and was not quiet. There we go. He was a tall, heavy-looking young man of 5 and 20. There we go. 25. I was like, wait, 5 and 20? Yeah, that means he was like 25. Oh god, he's the same age as I am. That feels weird. I don't like that. I feel old suddenly. Oh no. I'm 25 too. We're both old. We're all together here. Oh my gosh. No, I had a full on crisis on my 25th birthday to be like, no, this is not there's there's like a point of like when you're in your early 20s, it's like, oh, it's just my early 20s. I'm still just a girl. 25 is your mid 20s. That's scary. Thank you for the follow, American John. Hi. We're basically dust. We are. Oh no. Oh no. I mean, if you heard the sounds of like, my knees when I get up, I think I'd sound a lot older than I am anyways. But like, there's also there's such a surrealism to being like, yeah, I'm 25. I'm also still like at my parents' house because the economy. Oh, life is a very interesting, that's for sure. Oh my god. Ah, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you. I appreciate that. While we're just yapping about being old. Houses are expensive, they are. I appreciate the lurk, American John. Should I just call you John, probably? But hey, very lurk friendly streams for sure. I can just yap to myself forever. Also, yeah, you. I have no idea how I'm ever supposed to afford a house. It's not happening. Even living where I live, where it's like relatively cheap, kind of, compared to other places in the world, prices are rising and pay isn't. Prices are rising, the economy sucks, my income is Twitch, and it's not a lot, and art commissions at least. I I have not been able to get like a proper traditional, I guess, job for 8 months now, I think. I got laid off last summer. Shit's fucking rough, dude. But at least Twitch is paying me now. So I really do appreciate that subscription more than I think you realize. Wow. Oh, okay. Let's go back to some reading. If I can remember where I was, because of course I've lost it again. Da 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 da. Oh yeah, he was 25. God, that derailed me so bad, huh? So, his air was grave and stately, and his manners were very formal. He had not been so long seated before he complimented Mrs. Bennet on having so fine a family of daughters, said he had heard much of their beauty, but that in this instance fame had fallen short of the truth, and added that he did not doubt at her seeing them in all due time disposed of marriage. This gallantry was not much to the taste of some of his hearers, but Mrs. Bennet, who quarrelled with no compliments, answered most readily. You are very kind, I am sure, and I wish with all my heart it may prove so, for else they will be destitute enough. Things are settled so oddly. You allude, perhaps, to the entail of this estate? Ah, sir, I do indeed. It is a grievous affair to my poor girls, you must confess. Not that I mean to find fault with you, for such things I know are all chance to this world. There is no knowing how estates will go when they are when once they come to be entailed. I am very sensible, madame, of the hardship to my fair cousins, and I could say much on the subject, but that I am cautious of appearing forward and precipitate. But I can assure the young ladies that I come prepared to admire them. Why did that actually like I had a full bodied, I read this book before but never out loud, and that just made me have like a full bodied reaction to I have come to admire them. Those are your cousins. Sure, they're like distant-ish. Oh my god. Okay. I think they're cousins, or they're like second cousins or something, but it's close enough family for it to still be fucking weird. Okay. At present, I will not say more, but perhaps when we are better acquainted. He was interrupted by a summons to dinner, thank fuck. God, I hate him. I mean, I don't hate him, I just think he's weird. And the girls smiled on each other. They were not the only objects of Mr. Collins' admiration. The hall, the dining room, and all its furniture were examined and praised, and his commendation of everything would have touched Mrs. Bennet's heart but for the mortifying supposition of his viewing it all as his own future property. The dinner, too, in its turn, was highly admired, and he begged to know which of his fair cousins the excellency of his cooking was owing. But he was set right there by Mrs. Bennet, who assured him with some asperity that they were all very well able to keep a good cook, and that her daughters had nothing to do in the kitchen. He begged pardon for having displeased her. In a softened tone she declared herself not at all offended, but he continued to apologize for about a quarter of an hour. I think that's a warranted apology. Chapter 14. During dinner, Mr. Bennet scarcely spoke at all, but when the servants were withdrawn, he thought it time to have some conversation with his guest, and therefore started a subject in which he expected him to shine, by observing that he seemed very fortunate in his patroness. Lady Catherine de Bourgh's attention to his wishes, in consideration of his comfort, appeared very remarkable. Mr. Bennet could not have chosen better. That was such a simple sentence that it threw me off. I was like, that's it? There's not more? Gosh, maybe if I have time, because I do have to go out in a couple of hours, I might do like an hour of this and then maybe some gaming. I'll think about it. I might do a gaming stream tonight actually, and see if I can get like a friend or something. Hi. Hi, Pigeon 13. Welcome in. Oh, and thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Thank you. Uh, Why do I keep losing my spot? I need to start. If I ever stop reading, I need to just like highlight the word I stopped on. Because like so much of this book is like not walls, but like the paragraphs are very long and it's really easy to just lose yourself completely. Right, there we go. Mr. Collins was elegant in her praise. The subject more than usual solemnity of matter. I feel like I swear I'm good at English, but when I start reading out loud, um, it makes like me more aware of the fact that English is not my first language. Because holy fuck, how are some of these words pronounced? But at the same time, it's Old English, so like, shit's fucking weird, man. I should probably not swear that much, but eh. Right. And with the most important aspect, he protested that he had never in his life witnessed such behavior in a person of rank, such affability and condescension as he had himself experienced from Lady Catherine. She had been graciously pleased to approve of both of the discourses which he had already had the honour of preaching before her. She had also asked him twice to dine at Rosings, and had sent for him only the Saturday before, to make up her pool of quadrille in the evening. Lady Catherine was reckoned proud by many people he knew, but he had never seen anything but affability in her. She had always spoken to him as she would any other gentleman. She had made not the smallest objection to his joining in the society of the neighbourhood, nor to his leaving the parish occasionally for a week or two to visit his relations. She had even condescended to advise him to marry as soon as he could, provided he chose with discretion, and had once paid him a visit in his humble parsonage, where she had perfectly approved all the alterations he had been making, and had even vouchsafed to suggest some herself, some shelves in the closet upstairs. Oh my god, like, he's such a. She's so. He's like a stan. He's like, oh my god, guys. She suggested I put shelves upstairs. I'm fucking cracking myself up right now. It's really bad. Oh my god. Also, thank you for the follow, Neon. Neon Vortex, thank you. I appreciate it. In the middle of me trying not to laugh too loud on stream. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome in. Trying not to make myself laugh is inadvertently making me laugh harder. And it's hi Travis, hi. Welcome in. Oh my lord. So many people, so many new people today. Hi. It's a very new time for me to stream, but welcome, welcome, welcome. My favorite triggers. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of like the. I feel like what's more typical. I just really like I like I like the whispers and the being like talked to kind of stuff more than like noises. Just sounds aren't very fun to me. Like the ooh, someone's whispering in my ear. Oh, that shit's good. I don't. Does it count as ASMR? I'm not sure, but I've only ever seen these videos on TikTok, and it is the like wood soup, like wooden objects in a pool of water, and oh, that shit sounds so fucking good. Oh my god, I love that. I have like weird sounds, and I are weird when it comes to some of my like sensory stuff, but wooden frog. I will have a look at that after stream. That sounds interesting. Name spells and whispers. Yeah. Like just I guess a part of it is also my ass has extremely unmedicated ADHD. So just listening to like a stream that's just like sounds, I'm gonna be bored in 5 minutes. I cannot stick around to like wait, I guess, to, like, you know, um, it just gets boring. I need more, something more engaging happening. So, like, reading stuff, whispering stuff, anytime there's like actual stuff that I can focus on a bit more than just the noise is very nice. Did I lose my spot again? Of course I did. Oh my gosh. Okay, okay, okay. We were talking about, oh yeah, he was just picking up Lady Catherine, I think. So let's move on from that. There we go. Tapping is good. Most triggers are great if there is something else happening, but that's a me thing. That's a I want someone talking to me thing. I love voices. Like I feel like I am such a big thing of like just like talk to me. Keep talking to me kind of person. I love listening to people talk. I love listening to myself talk. I'm weird. Listen. I need to stop here before I feel like I'm going off the rails slightly. But yes, talking is good. Okay, 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 okay. Um, oh my god, wait, I forgot to do the thing. Because I forgot I had that up. The sticky note. Wait, I'm gonna do that right now. I have it up. I can do that. Because this is the first stream I've had that. And then I just make that. Trust. Hope this should work. If my math is correct. Haha. Oh, I don't want to move myself. Ta-da! That's the first stream I've had that open, so yay! Just making myself laugh. But hey, you can choose if you want to be anywhere else. But for now, I'm just. I don't know if anybody else finds this entertaining. I am just laughing at myself, and that's fine, you know. It's just a little bit of fun and kind of silly. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, then there we go. So that is all very civil and proper. Nope, that is all very proper and civil, I am sure, said Mrs. Bennet, and I dare say she is a very agreeable woman. It is a pity that great ladies in general are not more like her. Does she live near you, sir? The garden in which she stands, the garden in which stands my humble abode, is separated only by a lane from Rosings Park, her ladyship's residence. I think you shed? Oh my god, this is going horrible. I cannot read today. Um, and I got distracted by a notification on my phone, which is not great. But in my defense, it's a notification from VGen, and those are always lovely to get. So, you know. Oh my gosh, okay. Um, this is fine. Okay, I will look at this later. There we go. I'm back to stream attention. Yay, I need to just put my phone on Do Not Disturb when I stream for real. I think you said she was a widow, sir. Has she any family? She has only one daughter, the heiress of Rosings, and of very extensive property. Ah, said Mrs. Bennet, shaking her head, then she is better off than many girls. And what sort of young lady is she? Is she handsome? She is a most charming young lady indeed. Lady Catherine herself says that, in point of true beauty, Miss de Bourgh is far superior to the handsomest of her sex, because there is in her features which marks the young lady of distinguished birth. She is unfortunately of a sickly countenance, which has prevented her from making that progress in many accomplishments which she could not have otherwise failed of. As I am informed by the lady who superintended her education, and who still resides with them. But she is perfectly amiable, and often condescends to drive by my humble abode in her little phaeton and ponies. I want a little pony. Not me accidentally mildly outing myself as a horse girl. I'm not. I used to be when I was like 10. Has she been presented? I do not remember her name among the ladies at court. Her indifferent state of health unhappily prevents her being in town, and by that means, as I told Lady Catherine one day, has deprived the British court of its brightest ornaments. Her ladyship seemed pleased with the idea, and you may imagine that I am happy on every occasion to offer those little delicate compliments which are always acceptable to ladies. God, he's such a creep. Oh my god. Little delicate compliments. I have more than once observed to Lady Catherine that her charming daughter seemed born to be a duchess, and that the most elevated rank, instead of giving her consequence, would be adorned by her. These are the kind of little things which please her ladyship. It is a sort of attention which I conceive myself peculiarly bound to pay. You judge very properly, said Mr. Bennet, and it is happy for you that you possess the talent of flattering with delicacy. May I ask whether these pleasing attentions proceed from the impulse of the moment, or are the result of previous study? Mr. Bennet just fucking hates this man. Like, like even aside from the oh, him and his dad used to have beef or whatever, like he genuinely hates this man. They arise chiefly from what is passing at the time, and though I sometimes amuse myself with suggesting and arranging such little compliments as may be adapted to ordinary occasions, I always wish to give them as unstudied an air as possible. Mr. Bennet's expectations were fully answered. His cousin was as absurd as he had hoped, and he listened to him with the keenest enjoyment, maintaining at the same time the most resolute composure of countenance, and except in his occasional glance at Elizabeth, requiring no partner in his pleasure. By tea time, however, the dose had been enough, and Mr. Bennet was glad to take his guest into the drawing room again, and, when tea was over, glad to invite him to read aloud to the ladies. Mr. Collins readily assented, and a book was produced, but, on beholding it, for everything announced it to be from a circulating library, he started back, and, begging pardon, protested that he never read novels. Oh my god. Hi, Renato. Hi. Welcome in. I'm good. I'm good. How you doing? Did I lose my place? Oh, there we go. Kitty. Uh, right. Kitty stared at him, and Lydia exclaimed. Other books were produced, and after some deliberation, he chose Fordyce's Sermons. Of course, he fucking did. Oh my god. This man is insufferable. Lydia gaped as he opened the volume, and before he had, with very monotonous solemnity, read 3 pages, she interrupted him with, do you know, Mamma, that my Uncle Phillips talks of turning away Richard, and if he does, Colonel Foster will hire him. My aunt told me so herself on Saturday. I shall walk to Meryton tomorrow to hear more about it, and to ask when Mr. Denny comes back from town. Lydia was bid by her 2 eldest sisters to hold her tongue, but Mr. Collins, much offended, laid aside his book and said, I have often observed how little young ladies are interested in books of a serious stamp, those written solely for their benefit. It amazes me, I confess, for certainly there can be nothing so advantageous to them as instruction. Bleh. God, reading his dialogue gives me the ick so fucking bad. But I will no longer importune my young cousin. Yeah, good. Fucking. Then, turning to Mr. Bennet, he offered himself as his antagonist at backgammon. Backgammon. Oh. Mr. Bennet accepted the challenge, observing that he acted very wisely in leaving the girls to their own trifling amusements. Mrs. Bennet and her daughters apologized most civilly for Lydia's interruption, and promised that it should not occur again, if he would resume his book, But Mr. Collins, after assuring them that he bore his young cousin no ill will, and should never resent her behaviour as any affront, seated himself at another table with Mr. Bennet, and prepared for backgammon. Chapter 15. Mr. Collins was not a not usually this bad when I'm reading, I swear, guys. Mr. Collins was not a sensible man, and the deficiency of nature had been but little assisted by education or society, the greatest part of his life having been spent under the guidance of an illiterate and miserly father, and though he belonged to one of the universities, he had merely kept the necessary terms without forming it any useful acquaintance. The subjection in which his father had brought him up had given him originally great humility of matter, but it was now a good deal counteracted by the self-conceit of a weak head, living in retirement, and the consequential feelings of early and unexpected prosperity. A fortunate chance had recommended him to Lady Catherine de Bourgh when the living of Hunsford was vacant, and the respect with which he felt for her high rank, and his veneration for her as his patroness, mingling with a very good opinion of himself, of his authority as a clergyman, and his right as a rector, made him altogether a mixture of pride and obscureness? That's a big word. Self-importance and humility. Having now a good house and very sufficient income, he intended to marry, and in seeking a reconciliation with the Longbourn family, he had a wife in view, as he meant to choose one of their daughters. Bleh. I'm sad. Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Wait, I'm gonna. I got it. Sir Knight Natsu. I got it. When I first saw it, I really read it as Skirk, and I was like, wait, that's a Genshin character, isn't it? But no, it's Sir Knight instead. It's not Skirk at all. There we go. Having now a good house and a very sufficient income, he intended to marry. Oh wait, I already read that. If he found them as handsome and as bleh, if he found them as handsome and amiable as they were represented by common report, he's so icky. Hi. There we go. This was his plan of events, of atonement for inheriting their father's estate, and he thought it an excellent one, full of eligibility and suitableness, and excessively generous and disinterested in his own part. Hi, welcome. I'm glad to have you. Oh, I'm so like burpy today for some reason. Oh my gosh, I love the emotes. I really need to get some more done. So I drew all of my own emotes, but that means I have I if I wanna do more emotes, I have to draw them myself. We have plans. We were discussing in my Discord what emotes we should do. I'm also feeling. Give me a second. Oh my god! Wait, I know her. That's Nabi's emotes. I drew some of Nabi's emotes as well. Teehee. um, what was I saying? Yeah, I don't know what. I'm just now realizing. I don't think my Discord command like auto timer thing has worked all of stream, which is a bit odd. I'm gonna do a thing. But yeah, we were discussing in my Discord the other day. Um, what were we discussing? Sorry. Emotes, because I wanted to add some new ones, and I was talking to the I was asking the community what kind of stuff they wanted. There you go. Da, 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 da. Yeah, Nabi is awesome. She's such an absolute sweetheart. I think she was one of the first few people I met when I started streaming because we used to use the same model as well. Because I used to use the Prism model too. I still use it sometimes. But Nabi is an absolute sweetheart. I loved hanging out with her, and I loved working on her emotes. Her new design is adorable. It's so cute. Okay. Oh, my back. Let's see how much longer. I've got another hour I can stream for sure. But before I have to start getting dressed to leave. Okay. His plan did not vary on seeing them. Miss Bennet's lovely stretch time. Yeah, I need that for sure. Oh, good stretch. My back needed that. Okay. His plan did not vary on seeing them. Miss Bennet's lovely face confirmed his views and established all his strictest notions of what was due to seniority, and for the first evening she was his settled choice. The next morning, however, made an alteration, for in a quarter of an hour's tete-a-tete with Mrs. Bennet before breakfast, a conversation beginning with his parsonage house and leading naturally to the avowal of his hopes that a mistress might be found for it at Longbourn, produced from her, amid very complacent smiles and general encouragement, a caution against the very Jane he had fixed on. Okay. Well, hi, Trishna. Hee hee. Um, as to her younger daughter, she could not take upon her to say, but could not positively answer. But she did not know of any possession. Her eldest daughter, she must just mention, she felt it incumbent on her to hint, was likely to be very soon engaged. Thank you. I've been enjoying doing it a lot. I like just sitting and reading, especially since it's a book I love. And when I'm done with Pride and Prejudice, I want to move on to some of the Sherlock Holmes short stories, specifically the short stories, hopefully. So I'm not reading the same thing for streams and streams and streams. Um, but it's nice. Mr. Collins had only to change from Jane to Elizabeth, and it was soon done. Done while Mrs. Bennet was stirring the fire. Elizabeth, equally next to Jane in birth and beauty, succeeded her, of course. Mrs. Bennet treasured up the hint, and trusted that she might soon have two daughters married, and the man whom she could not bear to speak of the day before was now high in her good graces. Lydia's intention of walking on to Meryton was not forgotten. Every sister except Mary agreed to go with her, and Mr. Collins was to attend them, at the request of Mr. Bennet, who was most anxious to get rid of him, and have his library to himself. But thither Mr. Collins had followed him after breakfast, and there he would continue, nominally engaged with one of the largest folios in his collection, but really talking to Mr. Bennet with little cessation of his house and garden at Hunsford. Such doings discomposed Mr. Bennet exceedingly. In his library he had always been sure of leisure and tranquillity, and though prepared, as he told Elizabeth, to meet with folly and conceit in every room of the house, he was used to be free from them there. His civility, therefore, was most prompt in inviting Mr. Collins to join his daughters in their walk, and Mr. Collins, being in fact much better fitted for a walker than a reader, was extremely pleased to close his large book and go. In pompous nothings on his side and civil assents on that of his cousins, the time passed till they entered Meryton. The attention of the younger ones was then no longer to be gained by him. Their eyes were immediately wandering up in the street in quest of officers, and nothing less than a very smart bonnet indeed, or really new muslin in a shop window could recall them. But the attentions of every lady was soon caught by a young man whom they had never seen before, of most gentlemanlike appearance, walking with another officer on the side of the way. The officer was the very Mr. Denny concerning whose return from London Lydia came to inquire, and he bowed as they passed. All were struck with the stranger's air, all wondered who he could be, and Kitty and Lydia, determined if possible to find out, led the way across the street. Under the pretence of wanting something in an opposite shop, and fortunately had just gained the pavement when the two gentlemen, turning back, had reached the same spot. Mr. Denny addressed them directly, and entreated permission to introduce his friend Mr. Wickham. Oh boy, the bastard's here. I'm realizing now that maybe I just don't like most men in this story, actually. They all kind of fucking suck, other than Mr. Bingley. Like, Mr. Darcy is great, but also he objectively does suck, you know, at the start. The only person who stays, like, truly sweet throughout the book is Mr. Bingley. Right. Mr. Wickham, who had returned with him the day before from town, and he was happy to say had accepted a commission in their corps. This is exactly as it should be, for the young man wanted only regimentals to make him completely charming. His appearance was greatly in his favour. He had all the best part of beauty, a fine countenance, a good figure, and very pleasing address. The introduction was followed up on his side by a happy readiness of conversation, a readiness at the same time perfectly correct and unassuming, and the whole party was still standing and talking together very agreeably when the sounds of horses drew their notice, and Darcy and Bingley were seen riding down the street. On distinguishing the ladies of the group, the two gentlemen came directly towards them, and began the usual civilities. Bingley was the principal spokesman, and Miss Bennet the principal object. He was then, he said, on his way to Longbourn on purpose to inquire after her. Mr. Darcy corroborated it with a bow, and was beginning to determine not to fix his eyes on Elizabeth, when they were suddenly arrested by the sight of the stranger. And Elizabeth, happening to see the countenance of both as they looked at each other, was all astonishment at the effect of the meeting. Both changed colour, one looked white, the other red. Mr. Wickham, after a few moments, touched his hat, a salutation which Mr. Darcy just deigned to return. What could be the meaning of it? It was impossible to imagine. It was impossible not to long to know. In another minute, Mr. Bingley, but without seeming to have noticed what passed, took leave and rode on with his friend. Mr. Denny and Mr. Wickham walked with the young ladies to the door of Mr. Phillip's house. Good morning. I'm surprised you're here at all. This is not normal stream time, so I wasn't expecting you to be here. I was almost a little sad when I hit stream. I was like, no, let's go break your streak again, since you probably won't be here. Well, it's a Sunday. How are you even awake? It's like, what, 11? 12 almost? 12 p.m. on a Sunday? That's bedtime hours. I woke up at like 2 p.m. today. And then I had to do troubleshooting on a website. and I am scarred. Da 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 da, where did I leave it? Mr. Denny and Mr. Wickham walked with the young ladies to the door of Mr. Phillip's house, and then made their bows in spite of Miss Lydia's pressing entreaties that they should come in, and even in spite of Mrs. Phillips throwing up the parlour window and loudly seconding the invitation. Mrs. Phillips was always glad to see her nieces, and the two eldest from their recent absence were particularly welcome. She was eagerly expressing her surprise at their sudden return home, which, as their own carriage had not fetched them, she should have known nothing about, if she had not happened to see Mr. Jones's shop boy in the street, who had told her that they were not to send any more drafts to Netherfield, because the Miss Bennets were come away, when her civility was claimed towards Mr. Collins by Jane's introduction of him. She received him with the very best politeness, which he returned with just as much more, apologizing for his intrusion. Without any previous acquaintance with her, which he could not help flattering himself, however, might be justified by his relationship to the young ladies who introduced him to her notice. Mrs. Phillips was quite awed by such an excess of good breeding, but her contemplation of one stranger was soon put to an end by exclamation and inquiries about another, of whom, however, she could only tell her nieces what they already knew, that Mr. Denny had brought him from London, that he was to have a lieutenant's commission in the shire. She had been watching him the last hour, she said. She walked up and down the street, and when Mr. Wickham appeared, Kitty and Lydia would certainly have continued the occupation, but unlikely no one passed the windows now except a few of the officers, who, in comparison with the stranger, were become stupid, disagreeable fellows. Some of them were to dine with the Phillipses the next day, and their aunt promised to make her husband call on Mr. Wickham, and give him an invitation also, if the family from Longbourn would come in the evening. This was agreed to, and Mrs. Phillips protested that they would have a nice, comfortable, noisy game of lottery tickets, and a little bit of hot supper afterwards. The prospect of such delights was very cheering, and they parted in mutual good spirits. Mr. Collins repeated his apologies in quitting the room, and was assured with unwavering civility that they were perfectly needless. I'm gonna have a little water break, 'cause I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. Dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Keep having to take little cough breaks, 'cause I'm blah. Right. As they walked home, Elizabeth related to Jane what she had seen pass between the two gentlemen, but though Jane would have defended either or both, had they appeared to have been in the wrong, she could no more explain such behaviour than her sister. Mr. Collins, on his return, highly gratified Mrs. Bennet by admiring Mrs. Phillips's manners and politeness. He protested that, except Lady Catherine and her daughter, he had never seen so much. I need to give up on reading. Except Lady Catherine and her daughter, he had never seen a more elegant woman, for she had not only received him with the utmost civility, but even pointedly included him in her invitation for the next evening, although utterly unknown to her before. Something, he supposed, might be attributed to his connection with them, but yet he had never been met with so much attention in the whole course of his life. This man sucks ass. I just hope that we all acknowledge that he is like super shitty. I don't like him. He makes me uncomfortable and icky, you know? Trying to adjust my mic so it's not annoying me. Oops. All right. Tum da dum tum tum. One more chapter. How many pages does this book have? Like, like almost 400. We are only a quarter of the way through. Oops. I might switch to Sherlock Holmes next stream. Not because I'm not enjoying this, but because I don't want to read this every stream and have it be like the only thing that I'm doing, right? Unless people are, oh god, my mouse. Unless people are enjoying it. Because then that's a different kind of thingamajig, you know? Why are my timers not working? That's so weird. My redeem should be though. Right. Um, Chapter 16. As no objection was made to the young people's engagement with their aunt, and all Mr. Collins' scruples of leaving Mr. and Mrs. Bennet for a single evening during his visit were most readily resisted, the coach conveyed them and his 5 cousins at a suitable hour to Meryton, and the girls had the pleasure of hearing, uh, as they entered the drawing room, that Mr. Wickham had accepted their uncle's invitation, and was then in the house. When this information was given, and they had all taken their seats, Mr. Collins was at leisure to look around him and admire, and he was so much struck with the size and furniture of the apartment that he declared he might almost have supposed himself in the small summer breakfast parlour at Rosings, a comparison that did not at first convey much gratification, but when Mrs. Phillips understood him from what Rosings was, and who was its proprietor, when she had listened to the description of only one of Lady Catherine's drawing rooms, and found the chimney piece alone had cost £800, she felt the force of the compliment, and would hardly have resented a comparison with the housekeeper's room. In describing to her all the grandeur of Lady Catherine and her mansion, with occasional digressions in praise of his own humble abode and the improvements it was receiving, he was happily employed until the gentlemen joined them, and he found in Mrs. Phillips a very attentive listener, whose opinion of his consequence increased with what she heard, and who was resolved to retail it all amongst her neighbours as soon as she could. To the girls, who could not listen to their cousin, and who had nothing to do but wish for an instrument, and examine their own indifferent imitations of china on the mantelpiece, the interval of waiting appeared very long. It was over at last, however. The gentleman did approach, and when Mr. Wickham walked into the room, Elizabeth felt that she had neither been seeing him before nor thinking of him since, with the smallest degree of unreasonable admiration. The officers of the shire were in general very credible, gentlemanlike set, and the best of them were of the present party, but Mr. Wickham was far beyond them all in person, countenance, air, and walk, as they were superior to the broad-faced, stuffy Uncle Phillips, breathing port wine, who followed them into the room. People are making noise outside, and I am praying that you guys can't hear it. God, I really need to move my desk away from the window. Jesus Christ. That's getting very frustrating now. Give me like 2 seconds. I just want to make sure this noise stops. Okay, okay. Okay, I'm glad you guys couldn't hear it. It was distracting and like super loud for me. So I was also just like, I can't focus on reading. But it's sorted now. So we can get back and do maybe another chapter. Why is it starting again? People are frustrating. Why on a Sunday must you do this stuff, man? Anyways, so Mr. Wickham was the happy man towards whom almost every female eye was turned, and Elizabeth was the happy woman by whom he finally seated himself, and the agreeable manner in which he immediately fell into conversation, though it was only on its being a wet night, made her feel made her feel that the commonest, dullest, most threadbare topic might be rendered interesting by the skill of the speaker. With such rivals for the notice of the fair as Mr. Wickham and the officers, Mr. Collins seemed to sink into insignificance. To the young ladies he certainly was nothing, but he still had at intervals a kind listener in Mrs. Phillips, and was by her watchfulness most abundantly supplied with coffin? No, with coffee and muffin. When the card tables were placed, he had the opportunity of obliging her in turn by sitting down to whist. I know little of the game at present, said he, but I shall be glad to improve myself, for in my situation in life, Mrs. Phillips was very glad for his compliance, but could not wait for his reason. Um, dum de dum da dum. Now go. Mr. Wickham did not play at whist, and with ready delight was he received at the other table between Elizabeth and Lydia. At first there seemed danger of Lydia's engrossing him entirely, for she was a most determined talker. But being likewise extremely fond of lottery tickets, she soon grew much too interested in the game, too eager in making bets, and exclaiming after prizes to have the attention for anyone in particular. Allowing for the common demands of the game, Mr. Wickham was therefore at leisure to talk to Elizabeth. And that's the wrong symbol. Just want to check. Talk to Elizabeth, and she was very willing to hear him, though what she chiefly wished she could not hope to be told the history of his acquaintance with Mr. Darcy. She dared not even mention that gentleman. Her curiosity, however, was unexpectedly relieved when Mr. Wickham began the subject himself. He inquired how far Netherfield was from Meryton, and, after receiving her answer, asked in a hesitating manner how long Mr. Darcy had been staying there. About a month, said Elizabeth, and then, unwilling to let the subject drop, added, he is a man of a very large property in Derbyshire, I understand. Yes, replied Mr. Wickham, his estate there is a noble one, a clear 10,000 per annum. You could not have met with a person more capable of giving you certain information on that head than myself. Uh, for for I have been connected with his family in a particular manner from my infancy. Elizabeth could not but look surprised. You may well be surprised, Mr. Bennet. Miss Bennet, at such an assertion after seeing, as you probably might, the very cold manner of our meeting yesterday. Are you much acquainted with Mr. Darcy? As much as I ever wished to be, cried Elizabeth very warmly. I spent 4 days in the same house with him, and I think him very disagreeable. I have no right to give my opinion, said Mr. Wickham, as to his being agreeable or otherwise. I am not qualified to form one. I have known him too long and too well to be a fair judge. It is impossible for me to be impartial, but I believe your opinion of him would in general astonish, and perhaps you would not express it quite so strongly anywhere else. Here you are in your own family. Upon my word, I say no more here than I might say in any house in the kingdom, in the neighbourhood, except Netherfield. He is not at all like in Hertfordshire. Everybody is disgusted with his pride. You will not find him more favourably spoken of by anyone. There we go. I cannot pretend to be sorry, said Mr. Wickham, after a short interruption, that he or that any man should not be estimated beyond their deserts. But with him, I believe it does not so often happen. The world is blinded by his fortune and consequence, or frightened by his high and imposing manners, and sees him only as he chooses to be seen. It should take him, even on my slight acquaintance, to be an ill-tempered man. Wickham only shook his head. I wonder, said he, at the next opportunity of speaking, whether he is likely to be in this county much longer. Country? Not count. Okay. I do not know. No. I do not at all know. But I heard nothing of his going away when I was at Netherfield. I hope your plans in favour of the Shire will not be affected by his being in the neighbourhood. Oh, no, it is not for me to be driven away by Mr. Darcy. If he wishes to avoid seeing me, he must go. We are not on friendly terms, and it always gives me pain to meet him, but I have no reason for avoiding him. But what I might proclaim before all the world, a sense of very great ill usage, and most painful regrets at his being what he is. His father, Miss Bennet, the late Mr. Darcy, was one of the best men that I ever breathed, and the truest friend I ever had, and I can never be in company with this Mr. Darcy without being grieved to the soul by 1,000 tender recollections. His behaviour to myself has been scandalous, but I verily believe that I could forgive him anything and everything, rather than his disappointing the hopes and disgracing the memory of his father. Elizabeth found the interest of the subject increase, and listened with all her heart, but the delicacy of it prevented further inquiry. Mr. Wickham began to speak on more general topics. Meryton, the neighbourhood, the society, appearing highly pleased with all that he had yet seen, and speaking of the latter with gentle but very intelligible gallantry. It was the prospect of constant society, and good society, he added, which was my chief inducement to enter the shire. I knew it to be a most respectable, agreeable corps, and my friend Denny had tempted me further by his account of their present quarters, and the very attentions and excellent acquaintances Meryton had procured them. Society, I own, is necessary to me. I have been a disappointed man, uh, and my spirits will not bear solitude. I must have employment and society. A military life is not what I was intended for, but circumstances have now made it eligible. The church ought to have been my profession. I was brought up for the church, and I should have at this time have been in possession of a most valuable living had it pleased the gentleman we were speaking of just now. Indeed. Yes, the late Mr. Darcy bequeathed me the next presentation of the best living in his gift. He was my godfather, and excessively attached to me. I cannot do justice to his kindness. He meant to provide for me amply, and thought he had done it, but when the living fell, it was given elsewhere. Good heavens, cried Elizabeth. But how could that be? How could his will be disregarded? Why did you not seek legal redress? There was just an informality in terms of the bequest as to give me no hope from law. A man of honour could not have doubted the intention, but Mr. Darcy chose to doubt it, or to treat it as a merely conditional recommendation, and to assert that I had forfeited all claim to it by extravagance, imprudence, in short, anything or nothing. Certain it is that the living became vacant 2 years ago, exactly as I was of an age to hold it, that it was given to another man, and no less certain as it is that I cannot accuse myself of having really done anything to deserve to lose it. I have a warm, unguarded temper, and I may have spoken my opinion of him and to him too freely. I can recall nothing worse, but the fact is that we are very different sort of men, and that he hates me. Okay, bro. Okay. The lies. This is quite shocking. He deserves to be publicly disgraced. Some time or the other he will be, but it shall not be done by me. Till I can forget his father, I can never defy or expose him. Elizabeth honoured him for such feelings, and thought him handsomer than ever has he expressed them. But what, said she after a pause, can have been his motive, and what can have induced him to behave so cruelly? A thorough disturbed. I'm getting sleepy myself. A thorough, determined dislike of me. A dislike which I cannot but a dislike which I cannot but attribute in some measure to jealousy. At the late Mr. Darcy. Hi, Johnny. Hi. Surprised to see you here too, considering the time. Had the late Mr. Darcy liked me less, his son might have been. Uh, his son might have born. Oh my gosh. What is happening? Thanks. Um, Had the late Mr. Darcy liked me less, his son might have borne with me better, but his father's uncommon attachment to me irritated him, I believe, very early in life. He had not a temper to bear that sort of competition in which we stood, the sort of preference which was often given me. I had not thought Mr. Darcy so bad as this, though I have never liked him. I had not thought so very ill of him. I had supposed him to be despising his fellow creatures in general, but did not suspect him of descending into such malicious revenge, such injustice, such inhumanity as this. After a few minutes' reflection, however, she continued, I do remember his boasting one day at Netherfield of the implacability of his resentments, of his having an unforgiving temper, his his, oh God, sorry. His disposition must be dreadful. I will not trust myself on this subject, replied Wickham. I can hardly be just to him. Elizabeth was again deep in thought, and after a time exclaimed, um, to treat in such a manner the godson, the friend, the favourite of his father, she could have added, a young man too, like you, whose very countenance may vouch for you being amiable, but she contented herself with, and one too, who had probably been his companion from childhood, connected together, as I think you said, in the closest manner. Thanks for the hydrate. There is a war happening. Oh my god. Alright. There we go. But oh my god, Ethan. We were born in the same parish, within the same park. The greatest part of our youth was passed together, inmates of the same house, sharing the same amusements, objects of the same parental care. My father began life in the profession with your uncle. Mr. Phillips appears to do so much credit too, but he gave up everything to be of use to the late Mr. Darcy, and devoted all his time to care for the Pemberley property. Thank you for the follow. Ver- Verliness? That's definitely not how it's pronounced, but I appreciate your follow. Thank you. Um, he was most highly esteemed by Mr. Darcy, a most intimate, confidential friend. Mr. Darcy often acknowledged himself to be under the greatest obligations to my father's active superintendence, and when, immediately before my father's death, Mr. Darcy gave him a voluntary promise of providing for me, I am convinced that he felt it to be a much a debt of gratitude to him as of his affection to himself. Bear with me just a moment. There we go. Yeah, I'll probably have to leave soon because I should start getting ready. That's fine. Right. How strange, cried Elizabeth. How abominable. I wonder that very pride of this Mr. Darcy had not made him just to you, if from no better motive, that he should not have been too proud to be dishonest. For dishonesty I must call it. It is wonderful, replied Wickham, for almost all his actions may be traced to pride, and pride had often been his best friend. It has connected him nearer with virtue than that any other feeling. But we are none of us consistent, and in his behaviour to me there were stronger impulses than even pride. Can such an abominable pride as his have ever done him good? Yes, it has often led the liberal and generous to give his money freely, to display hospitality, to assist his tenants and relieve the poor. Family pride and filial pride, for he is very proud of what his father was, have done this. Not to appear to disgrace his family, to generate from the popular qualities, or to lose the influence of the Pemberley house, which is a powerful motive. He also has brotherly pride, which, with some brotherly affection, makes him a very kind and careful guardian of his sister, and you will hear him generally cried up as the most attentive and best of brothers. What sort of girl is Miss Darcy? He shook his head. I wish I could call her amiable. It gives me pain to speak ill of a Darcy, but she is too much like her brother, very, very proud. As a child she was affectionate and pleasing, and extremely fond of me, and I have devoted hours and hours to her amusement, but she is nothing to me now. She is a handsome girl, about 15 or 16, and, I understand, highly accomplished. Since her father's death, her home has been London, where a lady lives with her and superintends her education. After many pauses and many trials of other subjects, Elizabeth could not help reverting once more to the first, and saying, I am astonished at his intimacy with Mr. Bingley. How can Mr. Bingley, who seems good humour itself, and is really, I believe, truly amiable, be in friendship with such a man? How can they suit each other? Do you know Mr. Bingley? Not at all. He is a sweet-tempered, amiable, charming man. He cannot know what Mr. Darcy is. Probably not, but Mr. Darcy can please where he chooses. He does not want abilities. He can be a conversable companion if he thinks worth his while. Among those who are his equals in consequence, he is a very different man from what he is to the less prosperous. His pride never deserts him, but with the rich he is liberal-minded, just, sincere, rational, honourable, and perhaps agreeable, allowing something for fortune and figure. Thank you for the follow, Emmanuel. Thank you. I appreciate it. The whist party soon afterwards breaking up, the players gathered round the other table, and Mr. Collins took his station between his cousin Elizabeth and Mrs. Phillips. The usual inquiries as to his success was made by the latter. It had not been very great. He had lost every point, but when Mrs. Phillips began to express her concern thereupon, he assured her with much earnest gravity that it was not of the least importance, that he considered the money as a mere trifle, and that he begged that she would not make herself uneasy. I know very well, madame, said he, that when a person sit down to a card table, they must take their chances of these things, and I am happily I am not in such circumstance as to make 5 shillings any object. There are undoubtedly many who could not say the same, but thanks to Lady Catherine de Bourgh, I am removed far beyond the necessity of regarding such little matters. Mr. Wickham's attention was caught, and after observing Mr. Collins for a few moments, he asked Elizabeth in a low voice whether her relation was very intimately acquainted with the family of de Bourgh. Lady Catherine de Bourgh, she replied, has very lately given him a living. I hardly know how Mr. Collins was first introduced to her notice, but he certainly has not known her long. You know, of course, that Lady Catherine de Bourgh and Lady Anne Darcy were sisters. Consequently, she is an aunt to the present Darcy. No, indeed, I did not. I knew nothing at all of Lady Catherine's connections. I never heard of her existence till the day before yesterday. Her daughter, Miss de Bourgh, will have a very large fortune, and it is believed that she and her cousin will unite the two estates. This information made Elizabeth smile as the thought of poor Miss Bingley, as she thought of poor Miss Bingley. Vain indeed must be all her attentions, vain and useless her affection for his sister, and her praise of himself as if he were already self-destined for another. Mr. Collins, said she, speaks highly of both Lady Catherine and her daughter, but from some particulars that he has related of her ladyship, I suspect. Oh my god, sorry. I feel like I'm rushing a little bit. That's fine. Um, this will be the last chapter. I think we've got like a page before I end stream because I need to get ready to leave, and we have to leave in half an hour apparently. Oops. It's fine. Um, Mr. Collins, wait, no. I suspect his gratitude misleads him, and in spite of being his patroness, she is an arrogant, conceited woman. I believe her to be both in a great degree, replied Wickham. I have not seen her for many years, but I very well remember that I never liked her, and that her manners were dictatorial and insolent. She has the reputation of being remarkably sensible and clever, but I rather believe she derives part of her abilities from her rank and fortune, part from her authoritative manner, and the rest from the pride for her nephew, who chooses that everyone connected with him should have an understanding of the first class. Elizabeth allowed that he had given very rational account of it, and they continued talking together with mutual satisfaction till supper put an end to cards, and gave the rest of the ladies their share of Mr. Wickham's attentions. There could be no conversation in the noise of Mrs. Phillips's supper party, but his manners recommended him to everybody. Whatever he said was said well, and whatever he did, done gracefully. Elizabeth went away with her head full of him. She could think of nothing but of Mr. Wickham, and of what he had told her all the way home. But there was not time for her to even mention his name as they went, for neither Lydia nor Mr. Collins were once silent. Lydia talked incessantly of the lottery tickets, of the fish she had just lost, and the fish she had won, and Mr. Collins in describing the civility of Mr. and Mrs. Phillips, protesting that he did not in the least regard his losses as whist, enumerating all the dishes at supper, and repeatedly fearing that he crowded his cousins, had more to say than he could well man more to say than he could well manage before the carriage stopped at Longbourn House. There was a space there that I was like, huh? Man age? What? Okay, and that's the end of chapter 16. Yeah. Almost a 2 hour stream. I think that's pretty damn good, to be fair. Honestly, it's very likely that I either stream again tonight, so like in a few hours. Not long enough. I probably would have gone longer if I didn't have to get dressed and leave for dinner. And not a dinner I can't attend because it's at my grandparents' house and I haven't seen them for a bit. What's the time? So yeah, 6 hours ish. I can definitely stream again. I might do game streaming though. I have not done a gaming stream in a long time, it feels like, and I really want to finish the campaign mode for Quarantine Zone. Then maybe we stream again tomorrow. Who knows? Probably not, because there'll be construction happening and it's fucking loud. Unless I can get up at like 7 a.m., which I was trying to do today and it didn't work, and it's a whole story. But it's fine. I hope that you guys enjoyed today, and I am very, very glad that you have joined me. Oh, thank you for the follow, Nova. Thank you. I appreciate it. we're getting so we're getting super close to the goal, aren't we? Let's see. All right. So, yes, I will end stream that for today, and I will be back either tonight or tomorrow morning. But if you want to know when I'm back, you should join my Discord. I am awful with um, schedules because life is a bit up and down at the moment. But the Discord has roles that can ping you when I go live, and I think it's very helpful. Alright. Thank you guys again for joining me. And I will see you next time. Bye.